Thank you for the introduction. So we are presenting this company, which is named MYWAI, which is a new startup which is delivering edge intelligence on artificial neural networks, chip-based artificial neural networks, which are smaller than a couple of microns, consume less than a microwatt, and cost very little, optionally. Otherwise, you can have the AI running on cloud or edge computers. The platform is mostly for product servitization. Servitization is something which has been a dream for manufacturers since the very early days of industrialization. Mr. Ford wanted to develop a service and not a product when he did the Model T. The idea was actually to sell the product and to have it continuously customized and maintained as a service with hundreds of variations. Those days were too early, but today, products as a service is becoming a fact. A lot of machine builders and tool manufacturers are starting to add IoT sensors and connecting the machines and delivering services while we speak. Services start with maintenance, obviously, but then insurtech, fintech, pay-per-use, or insure with parametric insurance is the next future. And this encompasses anything that you want in as a service on a product and also along the full lifetime. This is not what we say, it's what the market is saying. This is a study by Salesforce, which says that more or less 70% of world manufacturers are starting to think how to add services to the product by connecting machines, streaming IoT data, adding edge intelligence, AI, and doing services. Which services? You can see it actually from the chart here on the right. It actually says that maintenance, preventive, prognostic maintenance is the killer application. But once that you maintain machines, knowing the uptime, how much your customers are using your machines, triggers also after sales, aftermarket sales, and possibility to actually do a lot of services. What the slide also says in the middle is that those producers who start adding innovative technologies like AI are 2 times more likely to make it to the market than former leaders. So if today you are a world-leading manufacturer of whatever machine, robots, or you name it, you should be aware that there are second and third players which are starting to add intelligence to your machines just to jump ahead. So maybe you should wake up and think about it before it's too late. There are very innovative business models that you can get out there, like yearly renting the machine, pay-per-use, or even selling the machine based on the outcome it produces, like how many jumpers if you are a textile manufacturer, or how many windows if you are a welding machine which does windows, and so on. Obviously, this has been dramatically accelerated by the COVID pandemics because people simply couldn't go out and maintain machines any longer, especially medical devices. We all heard about these mechanical ventilators which were controlled from remote and set up from remote by doctors in the US during the first COVID wave. And critical uptime, social distancing, privacy and security by design is something which has started from medical equipment and appliances, but is now going across all the borders of Industry 4 and advanced machineries. Obviously, the killer application, as I said, is industrial maintenance. So not only doing prevention of failures, but prognostic. I mean, when is actually going to happen that you're going to have your anomaly starting, and how much is the remaining useful life of your machine, and is it the right time to maintain, which is not exactly just the time when the thing breaks, but actually maybe it's a couple of weeks after or before, simply because you want your customer to finish his production. So the right time to maintain requires very advanced AI, new algos, which can actually detect at which level of failure you are and trigger aftermarket services for just-in-time, just at the right time intervention. So this is what we do at MYWAI. It's a new platform which is named an Equipment as a Service platform, which serves any sort of machinery. We are here talking about robots. We've won a couple of Trinity robotics projects from Cecimo and the European Commission. And we've become quite strong in detecting faults in robots. But this technology may be used in any sort of equipment. You just name it and you can work with it. And we are just announcing an agreement with Mitsubishi to do this on their machinery in the next steps. So what does the platform do? It monitors the edge with any sort of sensors. You can have embedded sensors on your machines, or you can apply ESO sensors, as we say, which are exoskeletons of sensors on your machine, which detect vibration, pressure, temperature, a lot of variables which feed into our platform. Why do we do this? Because you might have your sensors, you might have your computational power, but your machine doesn't want to expose it to the outer world, maybe because it's secretive, or eventually you don't want to run out of its computing time. So we apply these sensors if you need it. Otherwise, we use a standard like OPC United Architecture to get the data. We monitor your information from the edge. We then apply analysis, transmit the data to the cloud, or to any edge computer, like any Beckhoff, Advantech, or computer of choice. We then add sorry, the slider. Okay, we store the data on a big data database for time series and images. And then we do analysis of the data. This is where the edge AI gets in. Very advanced algorithms which you can produce in Python, PyTorch, TensorFlow, and import inside our platform. So you're not constrained to any specific language. This is an MLOps platform, so it's a platform for managing machine learning operations. And at that point, you can trigger back the response, which goes to the interface or to the SCADA system, again, using OPC UA interfaces. So it closes the loop, getting the information either from our sensors or from the MES or the PLM system. It does all this data crunching and intelligence either on the cloud, on the edge, or on the fog, and it gives back information to the SCADA using standard OPC UA interface. Last but not least, it certifies everything on blockchain. So if there's a failure and you want to claim for an insurance, for example, for payment about the failure of your machinery, all the time series get time-stamped and published on a blockchain, so that in case of anomaly detection, it's not our platform or your platform saying that something went wrong, but it's actually a unified, objectivized platform like a blockchain, which certifies that things went off track. As I said, we integrate with existing infrastructure. So if you have MQTT, OPC UA, ISA 95, obviously we're not reinventing the wheel, and we just interface. This is the platform, a database, a machine learning operational infrastructure for doing pipelining of the algos, labeling workflow, dashboarding of all the algos, and events triggers. On the back end, you can add additional services. As I said, we started with maintenance, but we're adding insurance, pay-per-use, and you name it, because any sort of services, once the machine is connected, may be added. On the analysis side, the algos can be dispatched on the GPU or CPU of your own machine or your own edge using Docker. Eventually, it can go on a proprietary edge, which uses a proprietary ASIC. So that chip there is a chip which has got neural networks inside. So as I said, consuming very little power and costing very little, you can actually create your own board and put it inside your machine if you want to make your machine intelligent, even for marketing purposes beyond just maintenance. And last but not least, if you are working in an ecosystem which has already got edge computers like Advantech, Beckhoff, or you name it, you can slot in an M2 board to put the intelligence there, or eventually just make it run on software. This is the interface. You see on the right, upper right corner, you've got the equipment database where you can actually locate all the hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of machines that you have around the world. You can describe it, you can have the uptime, all the usage of the system, but mostly, as you see on the lower side, you have time series, all the sensors which are live coming from your machine about how much it's used, how long it's used, and what faults it's eventually detecting. The algorithm part here, I wouldn't deep, but we're using shallow learning, small, smart data, so you don't need hundreds of thousands of data to detect an anomaly. We actually use very few data, but the right ones. So the curve there demonstrates that if you've got millions of data, an AI algo converges by default. If you have few data, you need to have consensus about experts that those are the right data. So the platform actually is a platform to share the labeling of smart data across the people. And eventually you can use those on the chip, as I said before. This is the DLT, so the distributed ledger technology. It's not blockchain, it's not Ethereum, it's too slow for millions of data. We're using IOTA, which is a German headquartered platform, which is the only native European DLT produced out of a foundation in Germany, the fourth largest ICO of every time in digital ledger technologies. What we do is that we put the blob of a time series which says timestamps the error, and actually it's certified with a double key secure access. This is the project we are presenting here. We will be presenting Friday in the CECIMO workshop with the European Commission. We won 2 CECIMO Trinity projects. The first one is for detecting anomalies in joints of robotic movements. So you put these sensors on all the joints. The system learns any movement at start. So if this is a painting movement, a welding movement, or a screw driving movement, the system learns it uptime at the first iteration, and it goes into the neural net. At that point, the system intelligently knows what is the best trajectory, and if it goes out of scope or out of span, it detects an alarm and triggers via the SCADA to the maintainers. Now we have won another project to ensure this on demand, so adding insurance and other services. So that's more or less everything. We have a couple of minutes for the questions. We are exhibiting in stand G51 in the startup area. So you can have a live demonstration if you want to see all this in action. And I'm here to take any questions if there are any. Otherwise, we are ending a couple of minutes in time.